No one tells you this, but you might not have a real personality. You've just been adapting for so long, it's started to feel like one. And the scariest part? You don't even notice it happening. You act differently at work, differently with your parents, differently with friends, differently online. That's normal. But here's what's not. When you don't know which one is actually you, when every version feels real, but none of them feel true, that's where the problem begins. A sociologist once described life like a stage. Every interaction a performance. You choose what to show, what to hide, how to act, how to sound. Not because you're fake, but because your brain is constantly asking, what version of me is safe here? And that question? It's not weakness, it's survival. For thousands of years, being rejected meant being alone, and being alone meant danger. So your brain learned to adapt, to fit in, to perform. But here's what nobody talks about. What happens when the performance never stops? Psychologists call it self-monitoring, and people who do it constantly, they feel drained, not physically, but mentally exhausted all the time, like they're always on, always adjusting, always watching themselves. Because your brain is running a loop. How do I sound? Did that come out right? What are they thinking about me? And that loop burns energy, a lot of it. The same mental energy you need to think, focus, create. So by the end of the day, you're empty. Not because life was hard, but because you spent the entire day being someone else. But the real damage isn't the exhaustion, it's what comes after. If you perform long enough, you stop knowing who you actually are. This is called self-alienation. You lose touch with what you really think, what you really feel, what you actually want. Because for years, you've been optimizing yourself for everyone else. And slowly, the performance becomes your identity. You look at yourself and something feels off, like you recognize the person, but it doesn't feel like you. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because most people don't think they're performing. They think they're just being nice, understanding, emotionally intelligent, and sometimes they are. But there's a difference between choosing how you show up and not knowing how to be anything else. So answer this, honestly. Is there anyone in your life around whom you are completely yourself? No filtering, no editing, no adjusting. Just you. If the answer isn't clear, that's not random. That's a signal. Because authenticity isn't just a nice idea. It's directly tied to your mental health. People who feel authentic experience less anxiety, higher self-esteem, stronger relationships, more meaning in life. And the opposite? Chronic stress. Even at a biological level, your body releases more cortisol, the stress hormone, when you constantly suppress who you really are. So even if your mind says this is fine, your body knows something is wrong. And it didn't start recently. It started when you were a kid. You learned very quickly, this version of me gets love. This version gets ignored or rejected. So you adapted. Maybe you became the funny one, the easy one, the achiever. Not because that's who you were, but because that's what worked. And then you grew up, but the pattern stayed. You kept performing, even when the people you were performing for weren't there anymore. Now here's the truth most people won't tell you. You can't just be yourself, because you don't switch on authenticity. You rebuild it, slowly, through something called progressive honesty. Not being real with everyone, but being real in small moments. It starts simple. Say one thing you would normally hide. Pause when you feel yourself adjusting, and don't fix it immediately. Ask yourself, what do I actually think? What do I actually feel? What do I actually want? Not what's safe, not what's expected. What's true. Because you weren't born performing. There was a version of you, before the masks, before the adapting, that just existed. That version didn't disappear. It got buried. And it's still there, waiting. Not for the world to accept it, but for you to stop performing long enough to remember it. So tell me this. Drop one word in the comments. What did you feel while watching this? I read every single one.